This story is entirely and utterly fascinating to me. And if this story finds out or turns out to be true, then again, things have meanings, right? So, what does it mean for your country to be the richest country that has ever walked the face of the earth? And on top of being the richest country that has ever walked the face of the earth, have vast resources to put into all sorts of things. And yet, the things that we think we need the most are the things that are invested in the least. If we're talking about education, or for that matter, if we're even talking about the basic idea of health and things that keep us healthy and longevitable. You have a crisis. There's a virus that's running amok. You're number one, right? And as number one, shouldn't you just by definition be able to get to the finish line first in regards to creating a vaccine? Not to mention, not just number one, you even have the incentive structure of being the epicenter of that virus. Should you not be able to accomplish those objectives if indeed you are the indispensable nation? Sometimes I think people miss that when political actors are engaged in issues of war, even if it's sublime war, subtle war, even if, it's not necessarily these kind of belligerent nations, they still take everything at their ability, at their hands, to try to hit and bash the other person as if they were in this kind of Herculean struggle where one guy is biting the other guy is gouging at the guy's chest. It's the same thing, just on a more sublime level. Anything that can be used at the disposal is used to hit the other person, or in this case, the other country. If you know that Russia is going to come out with this headline: Russia coronavirus is ready and safe, Ministry of Defense says. Basically, Russia is saying we've completed our trials of a coronavirus vaccine. Us, who you spent more on your military than we had our, entire budget. Our scientists, have finished this vaccine. During the time where you had the missile gap and the Soviet Union with communism versus socialism and those arguments, one of the biggest argument that capitalism can make is, hey, look at all these products. And people who were there, who may have, like being taken care of or whatnot, still recognize, I love having my access to those products. I love being able to do this and that. Those type of things weren't necessarily allowed where I am. It's a soothing, intoxicating thing to have products at your hand where you can go buy this or buy that. And the catch here is, well, that's making it difficult for that government to compete, requiring a certain degree of propaganda to keep the population indoctrinated with a particular ideology of the world. But keep in mind, any country that was under war terms would have done the exact same thing. We put Eugene Debs in prison for his talking against the war because in our heads, when you're in a time of war, that's not allowed. Well, the same thing was true for pretty much the entire duration of the Soviet Union. They were in a wartime footing with a more powerful foe. In this very instance, though, socialism crashed. So where are we now? And going by the same guidelines of what's possible in your society, and basically that your society, being a foremost forerunner, has something about it that sparkles beyond just the military power, and something to be said about the economic might and your ability to actually tackle and get things done. You have a virus. Deal with it. How is Russia beating you to the punch in regards to creating a vaccine? If this vaccine does indeed work, and you have all of these other places around the world that were able to tackle the virus, and now here's one other thing of showing incompetence in your inability to do just basic things. In this case, if indeed they're right, and I have a hard time believing this goes to headline if it's wrong because that's such a big hit. But they say we are finished our trials. We are done. We got a vaccine. Safe, effective, and everybody who used it showed antibodies. How did you miss that? Now, the catch becomes you need to explain that from an ideological point of view. How do you explain your failure from an ideological point of view? Question. I believe, and I strongly suspect, that our intelligence services has the world wired up in some way. I also believe that other stronger nations have something similar, meaning these guys spy in on what the other people are doing. And their intelligence services get information about the actions and activities of other governments every bit as much as we get information about activities going forward elsewhere. The moment that you find out that your competitor of a nation has gotten that particular item and that nation is going to go forward, what do? You smear the nation. That's all you can do. Within your context of zero sum, and you realize that on a particular issue of national interest and of world interest, that you lost and could not compete and get to the nub of it before your competitor. The only thing that you have at your disposal, if this is indeed a zero-sum game, is to basically try to smear the results, to make it look like, yeah, you won it, but it's a hobbled win because I don't necessarily accept that you won it honestly. Think of Donald Trump winning the race, but then turn around and say, yeah, but the Russians helped him. It's a way of saying you won, but you won under a certain pretense that we don't entirely accept it. Same thing with this. The moment that Russia comes out and says we found a vaccine and the United States wasn't able to necessarily get the vaccine, it makes the U.S. look bad. You have all those resources and you couldn't do what they ended up doing. And so the only thing you have at your disposal is to try to smear the victory. Now, they are saying that this is going to be out by, I think, August. So the Russian Defense Ministry, together with the Gamaleya Scientific Research Institute of Epidemiology and Microbiology, has successfully completed clinical trials of a vaccine against COVID-19 with the participants and volunteers at the Birkenau Main Military Clinical Hospital, the ministry confirmed in a statement. Kremlin backed the news website Sputnik reported. The final assessments of the test results have been made, and without exception, all volunteers have received immunity from the coronavirus, felt fine. Thus, the first domestic vaccine against new coronavirus infection is ready. The first deputy minister of the Russian Federation, Kradashi Mikhailovich Tsilivov, told Moscow's argument fakey news. I apologize if I butchered that name. The ministry also said that test results clearly show that all volunteers developed an immune response as a result of the vaccination. There are no side effects, complications, or undesirable reactions, health complaints from the volunteers at the time of discharge. While acknowledging more research needs to be done, while acknowledging that more research needs to be done, the head of the 48th Central Scientific Research Institute of Russian Defense Ministry, Sergei Borishevich, noted all volunteers produced the necessary antibodies against the coronavirus and the vaccine complete components are safe. They're calling for this, saying this is going to start to be mass produced in August. Third phase of Russia vaccine trial is expected to begin in August. The country aims to have 30 million doses of the vaccine by the end of the year. They hope to achieve herd immunity next year through vaccinating tens of millions of citizens. Now, right here, it is hoped that the vaccine will enter civil circulation around August 12th, 14th, and mass production of the vaccine will begin in September. With all of the powers at our disposal, how did we lose a race to get to a vaccine? And if we are losing that, what does that say about the country and the degrading infrastructure and the degrading perspectives and values of the society itself, where we couldn't marshal the ends to achieve this result that was clearly achievable, but since it has been on some level achieved, providing that none of this turns back and rolls back on itself, meaning it's being untrue. It looks bad. And once you find out something like this, the opponent is doing that looks bad, you try to find a way to hit him in the knees or at the very least throw paint on him as he's getting his victory. Yeah, you might have won this. But your shoes are really dirty. They're just really dirty. We don't like your shoes. Your shoes suck. Your shoes suck. But if you have an intelligence services that gets a lot of money, then maybe you could turn around and say, those guys were going to steal our stuff. Because if you remember, a few weeks ago, that was the line. Russians are stealing our vaccine secrets. Doesn't seem like they're stealing anything. Looks like they've completed this, and you have been left behind and with your pants down. And there may have been some incentive for them to releasing this, considering the story comes out that they were trying to steal the vaccine results. But I am pointing out that the pulling out the story that they were trying to steal the vaccine results was done so in a way to try to mar what was going on in regards to their scientific research in this particular reality that they had a workable vaccine. That's amazing. We'll see. I mean, if they're right, that's a great thing for humanity, and I don't want to be the first person in line to get that vaccine. And I would say that if it was just here in the United States also. But if they're successful in it, more power to them. Like, share, and subscribe.